Well, hello everybody. Welcome back to Aquarius Rising Africa. And I'm having a look in the chats here, and I see two ladies are having a fine dance with each other. So it's wonderful to see Lisa and Tonya. And there's Jojo that's just joined the dance in the chats. So welcome, and it's wonderful to see you guys, you ladies in the chats, and guys, hopefully as well. Dennis, it's so good to have you back. Dr. Dennis Carroll, how are you doing?
It's great to be back. I always enjoy it. It's a pleasure being here. Absolutely.
It is a pleasure being here. And I must say, I really enjoyed our last conversation as well. Just talking about, and you also know, obviously, I speak to Jessica Jones quite a bit, and of course, Caleb Jade on several occasions. I think, and you and I were just saying off air now, Dennis, that with all the stuff that's coming to the surface now, it seems to many people that it's so bad, but I think you and I have agreed that actually this is God's will. Yeah, what's your take on that? Maybe you want to share that with our viewers.
Absolutely. I think, the forces of good are out there working. They're working for our benefit. They've got our back. Whether we don't see them a lot, we don't recognize that, but they're there definitely, and they're making some progress. Absolutely against the darkness, but we have a lot of darkness in this world, Chanti. A lot of darkness that's working against us, and we have to. And the main thing that we can fight this darkness with is awareness. We have to be aware of what's going on and understand what we're facing. When we do that, that kind of takes its power away from it, a lot of its power away from it. The most prevalent fear of mankind is the fear of the unknown. And once we make the unknown known, then we can get a handle on our fear. We know how to handle things better. But we've got to make the unknown known first. That's the main thing.
I so agree with you. It's like walking into a dark room or walking into a dark building and you hear all sorts of crazy noises coming out of different rooms. In the darkness, it's a lot more scary than when you actually put on the light. And when you switch on that light, right, then at least you know what you're dealing with. And it really is about understanding, and that understanding and knowledge is power, and then we can understand what is going on. So guys like yourselves are doing this planet right now, I think, such an amazing service by sharing this information, because gosh, if I think of myself as a kid or when I was young,
some very interesting stuff.
Carry on.
We're going to be talking about drones today, and I'm not talking about the ones that are flying around in the skies over the Ukraine and over the U.S. I'm talking about human and inhuman drones. There are other types of drones, and drones simply mean that these things are servants for other things. They are controlled by outside forces. If you were to say that I was a drone, then it means I'm not in control of myself. Something else is controlling it.
This is like a radio control car.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, this is sort of it's kind of radio remote control kind of thing. And it's sort of a demonic and a human thing. It's inhuman and human. It can go both ways. But I think we've got a lot of this going on. And these vampire drones that I'm talking about are actually vampires in that sense, but they're not the blood-sucking vampires of Dracula and all that stuff. These vampires are more energy type vampires. And there's one thing I want to stress today to everyone listening. We have to understand that these things are out. I say this before, okay, and I'll stick to it. There are things out there walking around that are not human. They look human, but they're not human. And there are other things walking around that used to be human, but they're no longer human. Okay, that's the drones I'm talking about today. The inhuman and human drones, and they can be agents for darkness and evil. They can be sent to do things. They can be put on missions to assassinate people, to make certain things happen. They are like the true secret agents of the old movies, but they are under control of outside forces. In other words, somebody else is running the thing in the background for these people. They are still drones, very much like you do. And modern warfare now is going to robots. They're going to the robotic part. Drones are a big part of modern warfare now. So that, but you have also human and inhuman drones that can be programmed and sent out to do things for certain forces that are at work. We've got to
Let me just,
be dangerous.
I just, sorry, Dennis. I know we have a little bit of a lag here. I don't mean to talk over you. I just wanted to clarify though. So we're talking about, I mean, I know when we're talking about before our conversation right now, when you talk about vampire drones, I immediately think of those drones between the war that the Ukraine and the Russians are using against each other to do terrible things, right? They've called that kind of vampire drone. So I understand that's a drone that flies and it's dropping bombs in its enemy's territory.
There are drones that do that. These are the robotic drones. The drones I'm talking about today are the human and inhuman drones. They are drones sent out just like the drones are in war. They're sent out to do things. A lot of these work for nefarious forces, like Russia, for instance, has people that they can send out. They have these human drones, human and inhuman drones. They can send out people to put like a poison on your doorknob and take you out. They have people who do these things, and they're working under control of their governments. And they're like zombies in a sense. They're very much like zombies or something similar to that. Well, we call them kind of drones because they are doing the same things drones that do that fly over battlefields. They drop bombs, they take pictures, they do reconnaissance and all that. These human and inhuman drones can be sent out to do that as well. And I think a lot of people that we see at Hollywood and places like that may be drones as well. They may be under control of other things. Look at Elvis Presley. He was under the complete control of Colonel Parker. He got him to do everything he wanted him to do. He told him what movies to make and all that. Elvis was a drone in a certain extent, if you look at it that way. Whenever you are under complete control of something else, you are very much like that robotic drone that drops bombs. You're the same way. And I'm going to be dropping some stuff today that's going to blow some minds here. But I like to hear minds blowing, okay? Because that means
I love this. I love that familiar pop. So go ahead. But you saying like someone like Elvis is a drone, and it makes perfect sense. But wouldn't that kind of make 90% of Hollywood and the music industry, wouldn't that make them drones as well? Because they're pretty much under mind control, most of them anyway. They've all got handlers, they've all got controllers. Most of them have sold out. In fact, if they've won any award, it means they've sold out to the industry. So would that not make most of Hollywood these types of drones?
Absolutely, and when you're under the control of someone else like that, you are basically a drone. You may be human, you may not be like a drone that flies, but you are still a drone. You're still under control. Just like you call your handlers, your controllers. They tell you what to do. They send you out. A lot of people in Hollywood, I believe, are like this. I believe that they've sold out, they've sold themselves over, and they're complete drones for the things they want them to do. But the drones I'm also talking about today can be sent on missions by people. Let's say, and I'm not going to mention any certain alphabet companies, but if you work for these companies, you become their drones, whether it's voluntarily or involuntarily. It is a process of mind control that you go in over these people to turn them into this. And we talk about clones, but there are drones too. That kind of rhymes a little bit. But anyway, you've got clone drones or drone clones, whichever way you want to say it. People are not under full control of themselves. Whenever you give control of yourself over to somebody else, you're in bad trouble. And that's what happens with these drones. And a lot of times, these drones can work for the government to do things, to assassinate people, to, like I say, one drop of this toxin on a doorknob, Chanti, you take and you touch it, and you're dead in like 12 hours. You're gone. And this toxin is so virile that it's hard to trace, but it's attacking the biggest organ in your body, and that's your skin. That's how it absorbs through your body. You don't drink it, and you don't get injected. You just have to touch it. That's all you gotta do. And once you touch it, you get this on your hands or get it on your arm or whatever, wherever it gets on you at, you're usually gone. There have been lucky people who have lived through it because they didn't get enough of that toxin on them. But if you were to just like do the process of just opening a door handle, a doorknob with your hand, and you get this on you, you can't wash it off. You've got a bad problem. So when you look at the way they assassinate and take out people, it is very horrendous, but they're using human drones to do this. Somebody had to put that on the doorknob, Somebody had to go, yeah. And they are using people to do that. And we used to call these kind of people sleepers. They are ready to be activated. With simple face, they can call you on the phone or send you a text message. They activate these people to do the things that they need to do. They're trained to do it. They are drones. Whether they don't fly around, they don't have propellers on them, but they're still drones.
I fully agree. It's exactly what you say. What you're telling me now reminds me of a story that one of my South Africa's viewers told me a while back. Her husband was in the system, taken in as a child as well. And he was trained under the far right-wing Gaia at the time, Eugene Blanche, who a couple of years back was very far right-wing. And long story short, but she would basically tell me that he would wake up in the morning and he'd have oil on his hands, like car grease or oil. And he sometimes bled, and he had no idea where he went or what he was doing. And then what he started doing was he started taking the mileage on his car when he got back from work, and then the next morning. And then oftentimes he would see there was sometimes quite a large difference in the mileage from when he got back from work till the next morning. So most definitely, these guys would definitely then be activated to do things and have no memory of it, right? So they come back the next morning and they have no idea what they've actually done.
Yeah, absolutely. And they'll do horrific things. Like maybe go in, shoot a school up or something. And then they say, why did I do that for? But they may have been programmed to do that. And
Exactly.
just like the terrorists, Chanti, that get on buses and trains with bombs and blow themselves up to destroy other people. That happens a lot. Those people are drones for whatever purpose they're doing. We've got to remember that out there walking among us may be these people that are programmed for certain things. And I'm talking about mostly bad things. It's never really usually good stuff. They're programmed for bad things to happen and to do bad things. But put it this way, it's much easier to assassinate someone with a drop of oil than to blow up a car. That's much more, prevalent. A bomb going off, everybody investigates that. But what if you just put a drop on a doorknob or in somebody's drink or something? They've had it. That's it. But you will never know that you assassinated those people. It's a smart way to go about it when you think about it.
Exactly.
yeah, they're using some smart stuff out there.
Yeah, you're hearing more and more people speaking about getting poisoned nowadays as well, as opposed to being taken out in their hotel rooms, right, with a large caliber pistol. We're hearing a lot about poisons as well. That's for sure. As you say, it's easier. I guess less traceable too, right?
Yeah, that's been very prevalent since the Borgias, Lucretia Borgia and all that. She was very good at that. You would never want to take a drink from the Borgias, okay? That would be a bad idea. Absolutely. But it's always been prevalent down through history. That's why kings had food testers. You tested the food before the king ate it and make sure it wasn't poison. We say blessings over the food because once upon a time we was afraid it may have had poison in it. And certain witchcraft spells are done by putting stuff in food or getting to you to drink something. Be very careful out there what your food intake is, what you take the food from, who gives it to you, and for what purposes. You have to be very careful in this world because there are bad actors out there working against us. And a lot of these people, and we're going to get into this, as I said, there are human and inhuman drones. The inhuman drones, the vampire type drones that we're going to talk about, are actually demonic entities that are set out to do stuff. They are agents of evil. And even just a single touch from some of these things, Chanti, can cause you some very bad problems. So we have to be very careful who we allow to touch us or who we touch. We're very prevalent about coming up and shaking hands with strangers and all that. We've got to be very careful because these vampires, all they need is a touch to drain your energy and begin a process of even haunting you. They can show up in your dreams. They can come after you psychically. Once they touch you, they form a connection to your
Yeah,
spirit. Yeah,
exactly.
that's exactly what they're doing. And I've had a lot of people tell me that this would happen. That they had somebody inadvertently touch them, and that person would show up in their dreams that night. This happens a lot, and they are very bad actors that do this. It's not usually the good people doing this. These are usually bad people, and they've got a bad reason for doing it. But if they want to come after you, they can haunt you to your grave in this fashion. They can drive you insane eventually. They can do a lot of different things to you. These are like witchcraft spells, and a lot of spells are done by touching people. You have to lay hands on. Like we used to buy, in church you pray for people. You do what? You got to lay hands on them. There's a spiritual transference going on here. Okay.
Right.
But there's another way to do that, and it's not good. It's not for good purposes. That's what a lot of this is going on with. Now, let me tell you a quick story. I had a woman who came to me, and she was a dog groomer. That was her job. She would groom dogs. And she had a neighbor move in to the neighborhood who was a Mama Loa, a voodoo priestess. And the voodoo priestess came to see her, and she said, "Look, I'm going to bless your house, and I'm going to give you this liquid." It was a bottle of black liquid, a little small vial. And she handed it to her, and she said she took my hand and said something and handed me this stuff and put it in my hand and said, after that, this woman began to weaken. Said every day, just what she told me, said Dr. Dennis, said every day I got weaker and weaker. So she said one day I could do 10 dogs a day. Finally got down to 5. I could only do 5. Now I can only do 1 or 2. She said, I've gone to doctors. There's nothing wrong with me that they can find wrong with me. I'm not anemic or anything like that. What's going on with me? Well, when I heard all this, I immediately, red flag went up. Oh, they put a vampire spirit on this woman. And I knew exactly what was going on. And I told her, I said, well, this is not good. You're being drained because of this black fluid she gave you. But she mainly took her hand, see, and said something. She put a spell on her. very quickly by touching her. Okay. And this vampire spell that was put on her was going to drain her life out eventually. So I
Yeah.
did what I had to do. I won't go into the long details on this, but it was a very bad spirit. But once we got rid of the spirit, this woman began to get better. Eventually, she's back up 10 dollars a day. Her strength came back, and she's all right. And she asked me later on, what did you do? I said, well, it wasn't anything I did, but I knew what your problem was. And God has taken this thing off of you. That's the main thing. That's what you got to fight this with. It wasn't me, but I knew what to do to help this woman and get her in that situation where she could be helped. But that's what these people will do to you. All they got to do is do it with a touch, do it, with certain incantations. We are very prone in our society to just walk up and shake hands with strangers, people we don't even know. Be very, very careful who you let touch you or who you let in your space. We got to remember something. Okay, let me put it this way. If you walk up to a lion, you get a certain distance to this lion, he's going to get you. Okay, you invade his space, he's going to attack you. All animals are this way. Cats, dogs, whatever, they don't know you, and if they're going to attack you, you get in their space, you violate that little space between them, they'll strike out and attack you because you have violated this. You've got in there. Why are they guarding their space? Have you ever wondered about that? You've talked to a lot of people like that. Oh, don't get in my space, Why are people guarding their space? Because once people get into that space, they're close enough to do things to you spiritually, okay? And even physically to that extent, but spiritually, definitely. So you do not want anyone getting in your space that you don't want to be there, okay? You got to remember that, because this is the way certain people get power over you, especially the vampire drones. They can do this by a simple touch, by a handshake, or even getting into your personal space. Most of the time, people will say, don't get so close. You got that feeling built in about letting people get too close to you. There's a reason for that.
Exactly.
Absolutely. Yeah.
So when you say that these are inhuman or non-human drones, what makes them non-human? It's not like they're walking around like dogmen or werewolves in the middle of the mall or the pub, right? They're looking like normal human beings. But mostly, and I think I smell that energy. I just get a feeling. It's like my belly goes nauseous for a second, and I just go, there's something not cool about that person. I'll get that feeling, definitely. But I almost have like a physical reaction sometimes, right? Depending on how bad it is. But what makes them non-human compared to call it the MK Ultra mind-controlled human drones? What makes these ones non-human?
Well, there's two types of inhuman drones, really, if you want to look at it that way. The one type is absolutely 100% demonic. It is not a human at all. It never was human and never will be human. Then you've got the second type, which is the inhuman that once was human, but they are no longer human. Okay, if you go too far, too deep into the darkness, Chanti, you give yourself over too much to the darkness, you lose your humanity. You're no longer truly human, and you lose your soul too. That's the bad part about it. These people are what we call lost souls.
At what point, though, Dennis, and this is something that I find quite interesting, would that be that they overstep and there is no return? Because, when we're hearing about all these 12-year-old rituals, of these kids that get taken into the Luciferian system, especially the hierarchy kids, at the age of 12, they're committing their first act of cannibalism. So they then have already then, and that's on a knowing. No, I don't. I know I lie. Before that, they are forced to cannibalize, but it's not through free will and choice. Do you see what I'm saying? So at 12, they're considered to be making their own choice. Do you see what I'm saying? So at what point is the point of no return? Because we hear about these atrocities, and according to what I'm hearing, cannibalism is an unforgivable offense, basically. But yet, of course, people who are forced into the system and they are forced to do that, there has to be forgiveness, right? We know that there is forgiveness. At what point, though, is there no return?
Well, there have been people who have come back. Very rarely. It's not something that's happens a whole lot. But I think God really goes in and gets certain people for a reason, for whatever He has purpose to do. He can do it. But most of the time, Chanti, there is within inside of us a balance. And I talk to people a lot. We've got to be balanced in all these things. But if we become too much of darkness in us, if the darkness overbalances and it squeezes out the light in us, okay, we can't take in light anymore. Have you ever seen a dark, rainy day where it just seems like it just sucks the light out of everything? You've seen days like that. You've seen weather like that. And that's the way it goes with this. It's a spiritual thing. Too much darkness inside of you, too much darkness prevails. It leaves no more room for the light. You can't have light in you, so you're more darkness then than you are light. You're more inhuman than you are human. Humans have light in them. Humans have goodness and all this other stuff in them. But when that goes out, when that light goes out, like a pilot light, when that light goes out in you, there's nothing left but the darkness. And that's the bad thing. That's how you lose your soul. You turn your complete control over to the darkness. You're lost in the darkness. You become a drone like that, okay, for certain purposes, whatever these things want to use you for. Let me give you a quick illustration, and I have seen this with my own eyes. I have seen voodoo ceremonies where they allow these spirits to enter them and control them and take them over. They are drones. For all intents and purposes, they become drones to these demonic spirits. And they will dance. They will dance, Chanti, till they can't dance anymore. They fall over. And they have blisters on them. They keep jerking on the ground because they're under complete control of these spirits. They have turned over their control. And it's just like you're in a car and you're not driving anymore. You're in the back seat. Somebody else is driving your car. That's your body. Okay. And that's the way these things go. And when you become a drone like that, then you're under complete control of whatever it wants to run you or get you to do whatever it wants you to do, whether it's shooting up a school or helping your friend shoot up an overdose of heroin or whatever the situation is. It will get behind this human evil and enhance it more and get it to do more things that it wants to do. We have to guard ourselves against this. Be too much darkness in us, and we have darkness in us already, okay? We all have a little measure of darkness in it. And like I tell people, and I counsel people a lot about this, we got to keep that darkness down. We don't want to feed that beast. We don't want to feed that animal in us. We want to keep it under control at all times. Because if we lose control over that, we can do some bad things, very bad things, okay? Because the darkness outside in this world is waiting to hook up with that darkness in us and pull us deeper into that darkness until there's nothing of us
left. Exactly. And we were actually talking about it. I was doing a show earlier on with Lynn Monet, and we were actually talking about the alcohol, how one actually gives yourself over through excessive abusive substance, whether it's alcohol, drugs, anything like that, because that kind of opens up those gateways for these energies and entities to take over your body. And I mean, we were just talking about alcohol. How many times have people, when they reach a certain stage, they drink and they have a blackout? And that's literally when that entity is taken over and used your body as a drone, so to speak, right? Because they're the driver now, right? And your body's the drone. And to do what you want. People wake up the next morning going, who the hell, how did I do that? Blah, 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 you know? Mm-hmm. So again, you know, it's so important. And just looking at Carol's question here, is that always free will? And I mean, I know we've spoken about this before, Dennis, but I would like to get your reply on that, and especially when it involves children, because in my opinion, it's the parents that open the doorways when children become possessed. Parents have a great control.
Absolutely. It's like being under the control of alcohol. We call it being under the spirits. We call it that for a reason. We call them spirits. It's like you're no longer in control of yourself when you're under the control of alcohol or whatever the drug may be. Alcohol is just a liquid drug. I mean, if you look at it the right way, that's what it is. And by the way, I have had just a little side note on that. I had she was a world cancer expert. She told me one time, she said, never ever put a single drop of alcohol in your mouth. So that's the worst thing you can put in your body to cause cancer and do all these other things. And so they don't want you to know that because it's a big industry. They would lose a lot of money, but they don't want people to know. She told me this. She said, I don't even use mouthwash with alcohol in it. Okay. And when a world cancer expert tells you something like that, you need to listen. But alcohol, it can be the gateway. Drugs can be the gateway. Rituals can be the gateway. Spells can be the gateway. Things that they do like this open the doors, Chanti. They can open dark doors to us. And when those doors are open, anything can come through and hook up with us. We're allowing things to take over certain parts of our lives when we shouldn't do that. But that's the way these things are operating with people. That's why you're seeing these rituals performed on stage. They're getting young people set to take in this kind of stuff. And they are becoming participants in the ritual. When you even just watch these rituals, you are participating, whether you know it or not. You're part of the ritual. You don't ever want to be part of the ritual, because then you're going to take in whatever that ritual is about, and you're going to be part of it. So that's never a good idea, no matter which way you look at it. But young people are doing this. Older people are doing this. They're watching this stuff and becoming participants in it. I have had a lot of people come to me about video games. They get hooked on these video games just like alcohol or drugs. They can't stop playing them. And it's violent. Yeah, it's violent stuff. And it's terrible stuff. There can be spirits inside of video games. There can be spirits inside of music. There can be spirits inside of movies. The list goes on and on and on. I've seen some books I would not advise you to read. Okay, because they have that influence, that sphere of influence around them that can actually hook up with you if you're not careful, and have that rapport, have that connection. You do not want to make a connection with this stuff, no matter what.
I agree. And just speaking about the video games completely, you must see the new video games for kids. It's literally leads them into all sorts of schmexel things and bestiality, or it's grooming them for that. It's actually quite insane. I watched something on it not too long ago, which I actually want to do a program on as well. But talking about the video games as well, a couple of years back, one of my clients, both of her sons committed suicide in the same year. I think it was 6 or 8 months apart, and both of them were addicted to these video games, but these extremely violent ones where you're killing and shooting and what have you. And I mean, there was the direct link to that. I mean, yeah, of course, lots of other things was probably going on in the house, no doubt, but that was one of the things. I mean, can you imagine as a mother dealing with that? But yeah, it's very, very true that they do.
That's so very true, Chanti. You know, people don't even look at the lyrics to some of these songs that they've been. Yeah, look at some of the lyrics to these songs. Look them up on Google. They will blow your mind. These are rituals. These are spells being done here. If you look at it, I mean, you know, you got to look at it for what it really is. And I'm not getting down on rap music. This can be country music as well. It can be different kinds of music. It doesn't matter what it is. Just like it is with the video games. They are desensitizing these people. They're taking their humanity away from them. They have no more empathy for people. They have no more feeling for you. You become a non-player object. That's what they call it, a non-player. You're something to be eliminated. You don't think about the guy that you shoot or blow up in the game as being human, okay? In that respect, this desensitizes people to having any kind of feeling or emotion for someone else. The more, and that's the way the demonic works. The more it can isolate you and take that feeling away from you, take that empathy away from you, take that spiritual feeling you have for others, love that you have for others. It cuts that off. It isolates you. It will tell you, oh, you know, nobody loves you anymore. Nobody cares about you, and you shouldn't care about them. That's the way
Exactly.
yeah.
Exactly. It's so true. I just the previous question there, Dennis, which was quite interesting from Tracy. These you know, you get these herbal tinctures or whatever it is, natural tinctures that contain alcohol. So what do you say about taking that?
Absolutely. If you'll just take a look at some of these lyrics, what some of these things are saying, they are talking about actual precepts of witchcraft. I mean, they're not even trying to hide this stuff anymore. Because they're getting away with it. Nobody's questioning it. Nobody's pulling it up. Look at some of these rap songs telling you to do horrific things, to you know, do things to women, to kill policemen, to do all kinds of these, and we're listening to this. We're calling this entertainment, you know, and that's not good. Okay, once upon a time, songs were uplifting about love, you know, family and stuff like that. They were good songs. They made you feel good. Nowadays, they also are awakening something in you. What these songs are doing, what these movies are doing, what these books and all these other things are doing, they are touching that darkness in you. And they are amplifying that darkness in you, whether you know it or not. And that's not a good idea, because then it will make you a drone. It starts slowly taking control over you until you have no control left. This is a form of demonic possession. That's basically what it is. And they're in different levels. We'll have to do a show on that one day. They are different levels of demonic possession. And some of them are so subtle, you don't even know it. You don't know it's taking place. That's the way they work. But if you think about it, that's an incredibly smart way to possess somebody. You do it slowly, a little bit at a time. Slowly, little bit by little bit, you knock the dominoes down until you got the whole box of dominoes where you want them. And that's the way these forces work against the human intellect and human feelings and the human heart. They connect that darkness that's already there, amplify it, put hooks on it, connect it, and pull it deeper into the darkness where it wants you to be. That's the way it goes. Mm-hmm.
And it's like building that addiction, right? To alcohol, to cigarettes, to drugs, whatever it might be. You know, so it creates that desire for more. And any addiction, I mean, you try taking a child's cell phone away from them. I've seen children that are addicted to their cell phones throw the most horrific tantrums beside themselves. You take someone, a full-blown alcoholic, you take their booze away from them. You take a druggie's drugs away from them. You take a smoker's cigarettes away from them. You're going to see a very, very nasty side, right? Underbelly to that person, because usually that addiction is feeding the monster. Mm-hmm. It's appeasing the monster. It's keeping the monster fat and supplied, right? Until you take it away. And that's truly, you know, as a healer, that's something I can say over the years. When people start giving up their addictions and start working.
Let me say something that's going to make people uncomfortable here. But I've been known to do that, okay? It's going to make you a little uncomfortable when you think about this, okay? But what do you check for when you leave the house? Got your keys, got your pocketbook, got whatever it is you're taking with you. But one other thing you always look for, what is it? The cell phone. That cell phone is now stuck in your hands most of the time. That cell phone is now part of your psyche, part of your mind, part of your existence, and you are becoming part of the technology. So this stuff is sucking up your humanity a little bit here, okay? It's taking your humanity out because you're becoming part of the technology. This is the main goal in the end that these forces want to do in this world. They want to take your humanity by turning you into part of the technology. The technology which you and I, unfortunately now, are absolute slaves to. We are the drones of this technology, okay? We are being guided by outside forces to do a lot of things. Look at some of these young people. They eat the cereal that they want to eat for breakfast because they're told to do that by commercials. You know, oh, you need this cereal, you need this, you need that. Or they wear the clothes that they're wearing because they've been told, hey, you need to buy those clothes. You're being manipulated here on a grand scale that goes beyond imagining by these forces. And that's what these things are doing. We are becoming the drones.
So true, Dennis. It's so true. It's so true. So when we look at this sort of stuff and we understand that through the subtle mind control, because that's really what they've been doing over decades now, through the media, through television, through advertising, through, as you say, you know, fashion industry, the beauty industry. I mean, the women's beauty industry, isn't it a crying shame that that has to be one of the biggest industries that are thriving and growing each and every day? Because what they've managed...
You can sell anything, Chanti, as long as you tell people they need it, whatever that may be. You know,
if you're looking at the beauty industry, how it's tapped into specifically women's insecurities.
You got to have this because it does something else. You know, they tell you got to have this because it'll make you look better or make you feel better.
10 years younger. It's going to take your wrinkles away. It's going to take your belly away. It's going to take your cellular, whatever it's going to take away. But you know, my point is there's some type of spirit that drives that. And, you know, the more I've been hearing about the different type of spirits that drive these things, for me, that would be, and I don't know, correct me if I'm wrong, would be like a Jezebel type spirit. Because you're constantly being told you're not good enough the way you are.
Well, it's appealing to your vanity. That's the Jezebel thing. Jezebel was very vain, you know.
But only because she's insecure. She's only vain because she's insecure. She's only vain because she's insecure. Look at some of the most beautiful women out there, dressed in whatever. You take that garb off, and you're getting a different type of a creature of the night you're dealing with. That's what I'm saying. We're taught to hide through these industries who we are. So that type of energy for me would be, okay, well, I'm this, I'm that. It's like a seductive spirit. You're seduced,
And
right? I'm not.
the interesting thing, Chanti, is some women look better without the makeup. You know what I'm saying?
Most of us look better without the
They're
makeup.
following the formula that they've been told to do. You got to do this. You got to have this. You got to take that pill to make you happy. You know?
Exactly. And I've never ever heard a guy say, I can't wait to kiss you with your lipstick on. Right? I can't wait to kiss you with that lipstick on. Tastes so good.
Yeah.
Most of them say, please just take it off. Please just take it off. It's hilarious.
This is exactly how you become a drone to a certain extent. You're under the control of this industry. You know, to me, it is, on one hand, it's very human to see people do this, but on the other hand, it's not a good idea to turn control of yourself over to anything. And there are certain ways to fight this, though, and that's what we're going to talk about a little bit today. There certain ways that you can fight against this to keep these things, to keep this control down from you. Don't, and like, you know, not letting people touch you, not letting people get in your space. You don't want to make the connection. You don't want there to be a connection between this. And you somewhere down the line, just like you're talking about all this stuff with the makeup and stuff, you got to reach a point where you break that connection. You got to say, hey, enough is enough. I draw a line here in the sand. Don't want to go any further than this. You know, I've got to stop somewhere. Somewhere you got to, you know, say enough is enough.
Right. Absolutely. And just claim back our sovereignty again, because really at the end of the day, that's what it's about. We don't need all of this stuff. We really, really, really don't. You know, greed has become the order of the day for most people. You know, 3 cars, 2 houses, whatever. Everyone is trying to keep up with the Joneses, how much money you have. And it's just pushing the material world all the time. But what we were also talking about earlier on is just, as you said, these are not the types of drones flying up in the sky, dropping bombs on Russia and Ukraine. This is something that looks like you, acts like you, dresses like you, and is in your everyday, in our everyday existence. So I want to ask you a question, because I think it's important for us to know, how do we take precaution against these things as well? And yes, I know spiritually that is the most important, absolutely. But I think practically that's equally as important, for us to understand how to take precaution. But also what I'd like to ask you is, how does a normie recognize one of these drones in your environment? How do you know?
You kind of look at the Russian soldiers. When they see a drone coming, they know they better run and hide somewhere. Okay, they better get out of the way. You better be prepared to evacuate very quickly, because it's usually got a bomb that's going to drop on you. But these drones that we're talking about today are not so easily spotted. That's the problem. You know, they're out here walking around with us, and they're very hard to see. But you know what? We've got to understand that this is a spiritual problem to a certain extent, and we've got to handle it spiritually in that respect. We've got to ramp up that discernment that we have built into us. We've got to get more discernment on these things. Watch people closely. You know, you mentioned addiction earlier. The most addictive thing on this planet, it's not cocaine, it's not heroin, it's not meth, it is the darkness. Darkness is the most addictive thing. Once it gets a hold of you, you're usually gone. That's the way it goes. You know, I've seen some people come back from heroin and cocaine use, but you don't usually come back from the darkness, because it swallows you up very quickly. And like I say, you're gone. And these people are walking around out there, just like, that very same famous incident with the guy on the subway, and they had to subdue this guy because he was a bad actor. He was threatening people. That was an obvious drone, but some of them you can't see that, obviously. Some of them you got to feel spiritually what you're dealing with. And like I said, that's why you don't want them to invade your personal space. Because once they do that, they make a connection. I ran into a vampire one time and actually shook hands with her. And it changed a lot of perspectives for me. I'll have to tell you that story one day. But anyway, she was a like 300-year-old vampire. But the whole thing is, you don't want to let them make a connection with you. You've got to keep your spiritual shield up against these, because you can't tell these drones from other people. That's the problem. And that's what I'm warning you about today. There's no certain sign say, oh, well, that guy's a human, that guy's not human. You can't sit at Walmart or someplace picking these people out. You may be wrong, okay, doing that. I have a friend that does that. He said, he sat there in Walmart. I don't think that one's human, But you got to use discernment against these things. You got to go with what you feel. If you meet somebody and it doesn't feel right, you don't need to be hugging on that person. You don't need to be touching them. You don't need them to let them touch you. You don't need to get close to make that connection. That's what they're looking for. They want to make that connection, and you got to keep that connection from being made. That's the main thing, and that's why I say you've got to raise that spiritual shield against these things and have it up and have it ready at all times. Be very careful. There's an old joke about a guy that walked up to a guy who was standing there with a dog, and he asked the guy, said, "Does your dog bite?" And the guy said, no, my dog don't bite. And he reaches down to pet the dog, and the dog almost tears his hand off. And the guy says, I thought you said your dog didn't bite. He said, that's not my dog. Okay? So, you got to be careful. You don't walk up to a strange dog and pet it. You don't just do some of these things that you got to be very careful about. You don't want to make a connection. That's what they're looking to do. These vampires and all that, they want to make that connection so they can get power on you, so they can start using those dark hooks on you and do things to you, either coming in your dreams or attacking you spiritually when you don't know it. Just like that woman I told you about with the Mama Loa. The poor lady did not know what kind of trouble she was taking from that woman. Don't take this stuff. Be careful what gifts people give you. Be careful what food you give. You have to be very careful about what you're eating out there, because that is the number one way to put spells on people. Put stuff in their food. You got to watch out. Be aware of your surroundings at all times. You got to keep your head on a swivel. You got to keep your wits sharp. Some people are sharp as mashed potatoes. Okay, that's not sharp enough. Okay,
that's a bit sludgy.
Yeah. So we've got to stay on top of our game, because listen, this game is the number one thing about this game that we're having to play is survival. Okay, and it's our very survival. And I'm talking about people, a lot of times a very defensive thing is you can raise your hands up and do the skull and crossbones thing. That actually is a defensive maneuver. That is a spiritual defensive maneuver. You say, you stop right there. You can rebuke something this way.
Wow, it's really not that.
Yeah, this is a lot of people say, oh, that's an Egyptian, Amon Ra, something. No, it's got nothing to do with that. This is a defensive position. We call the skull and bones. So the skull is your head, and the crossbones. Why? You see that? That's a warning thing. It is. We used to think about it being on pirate ships and all that, which it was. It was a warning saying, if you mess with us, we kill you. It's a death warning. You see it on bottles of poison. You don't drink this. It's got a skull and crossbones on. It's a warning. That's what you're doing this way. When you do that, that's a defensive position. You're saying, get away from me. You're putting your shield up.
Yeah.
And that's one way to do it. There are other ways, like the evil eye thing that people talk about. It's a good thing not to look. I know this sounds weird to say, but it's a good thing not to look some people in the eyes. That's where a lot of these vampires and some of their stuff, that's where their power lies, in their eyes. Um, it, I'm saying you can look at your boyfriend. Okay, there's nothing wrong with that. You can stare at your boyfriend's eyes, but strangers are what you got to watch out for. You know, you have to be very careful with this stuff. You know, your mother told you once upon a time. What did she tell you? Don't take candy from strangers. Don't take stuff from strangers. Why did they tell you that? Because when you give somebody something, you can give them very easily, like that woman with the Mama Loa. You can give them a spell. If they take that, if I were going to put a curse on you today, Chanti, and I handed you a piece of paper and you take it, the spell, that curse is yours. That's it. You own it now. Okay, and the only way to get rid of it, it's a bad way to say this. The only way to get rid of it is to give it to somebody else.
Wow.
But all you're doing is passing along evil. That's not good, but that's the way it works. There are bad actors sitting out there waiting to put spells on you, waiting to do things to you because that's how they have fun. They enjoy messing up people's lives. There are some people that will not hesitate to turn your life into a living hell if that's what they want because they enjoy doing that. That's the way they work.
Yeah, absolutely. It's how they operate. Wow. Well, it's very interesting. And I think, especially in the times in which we're living now, we've got to be aware that just because someone's wearing a human body doesn't make them human. And this is why and as you were saying as well, again, the word discernment comes up a lot on this channel. It's about with us being spiritually attuned with God, we will automatically have our alignment and understand our discernment. You know, I always say when we align, we know where to go, where not to go. We know we're kind of in the right place at the right time. Miracles will happen. You will miraculously miss having a head-on collision by that much type thing. There are lots of amazing stories like that. And we really do need to be aware of that, and especially during this time in which we're living, especially with so many things coming out of the portals. But I want to ask you one question, Dennis, before I know we're just about up here for today. But what is your take on all these drones coming out of the sea and all sorts of other places recently? What's your take on what's going on there?
Well, we do know without a doubt that there are government bases under the water. There are several of them. One of them is definitely off the coast of Bermuda. There are certain areas of the ocean that they will, they're standing by guarding that they don't want you around. So it would not surprise me if some of these things are not definitely coming out of the water in that respect. I don't think, my own personal opinion, that any of these so-called drones that we're seeing are actually alien type things, but there may be some, I believe without a doubt, and I have seen some of these with my own eyes, that there may be alien probes in this world. Okay, that would not surprise me a bit. But the probes that we're seeing would not act like the drone. Drones are man-made stuff. That's basically what they are. So if you see a drone, it's usually made by mankind. But now an alien drone would not look like that. It would look more like, an alien thing. It would not follow along the same lines of a human-made drone. But we got to understand that, and I've said this before, the technology that you and I have right now is probably 100 years or so more behind what the government has. And the governments of the world are not going to share that knowledge with you. They're not going to let you know that. They're not going to give you disclosure. Don't ever look for disclosure coming from the government because they're just not going to do that. They would have to give up their power. Their power is secrecy. And they're not going to give up their power under any circumstances. But it would not surprise me if these things are not coming from undersea bases.
Yeah, well, we know that there are definitely underground bases, water bases, stuff like that, where all sorts of dodgy things go on there. So it certainly wouldn't surprise me. You know, I was watching a podcast the other day, and apparently they were talking about 50 of these things came out of the sea. So yeah, that's very interesting indeed.
Something else we need to consider. Drones do not fly at night. It's very hard to fly a drone at night. You can't see what you're doing. It's dark. Unless you have a very sophisticated drone that has night vision and thermal cameras on it. But the only people I know can afford anything like that is what? The government. I mean, that's kind of out of the reach of a normal person to buy something like that. Or it would be a rich man's toy. But the government can easily afford that type of stuff, and they are using it.
But I was sort of listening to some stuff about these drones, these vampire type drones. And obviously, I think they're being used in what you were saying earlier on a lot as military weapons now, because I don't know how true this is, you know, but I'm sure it sounds true, because the Ukraine has been using them a lot against the Russians. And apparently this is they've have made their own drone. And apparently the Russians are or were battling a lot with that sort of thing. So I don't know, what's your take on that? Just with all this drones used for warfare.
Well, yeah, definitely. What is disturbing about all this, Chanti, is they are going further and deeper into robotics. Robotics are our future. And when I said earlier about us becoming part of the technology, I'm going to give you, let's say 50 years from now. You say, well, you know, I've worn my liver out. I need a new liver. Or my knee is gone. I need a new leg. And they say, well, hey, yeah, we can put a leg on you there. You know, we can give you a robotic leg and you can walk around on it. Well, that's wonderful. But you are becoming, again, part of the technology. We've got to be very wary that our technology doesn't swallow us up like that darkness I talked about. And here's the bad thing about a lot of this technology that we must understand. Although some of it's good, and it's good to be able to talk on our cell phones and to watch movies, whatever we want to do, nothing wrong with that, okay, if we're using it the right way. But these people are not using these things right. This technology is coming from dark sources. And I've told this to a lot of people that the demonic is behind a lot of this technology. The demonic has its own technology, folks. It's had its technology for millions of years. The angels have this type of technology. It is celestial technology, without a doubt. And I think some of these ships that are being seen that move at tremendous speeds and all that are not being driven by human or even alien things. They are angelic type things, because the angels are far beyond what we see pictures of them with the wings and all that floating around. They're not like that. Okay, and we need to do a show on angels. I'm going to be doing a show on fallen angels very soon on Hunting the Shadows. But we'll have to do a show one day on just angels, because it is a absolutely fascinating subject. But these angels are not what we think they are.
Yeah,
they can look like us when they want to, but that's not what they really look like. They look far beyond aliens. Okay, if your vision of an alien is the gray looking guy, you know, with the big head, you're wrong. That's not what they look like. That's what we're being led to believe. But the technology, and a lot of this technology in the world that we're having today, is not coming from human sources. It's coming from diabolical sources that have one reason and one reason only, to give us this technology so that we will destroy ourselves with it. I ask people a lot, do you think God invented the atom bomb? No. No, he didn't invent the atom bomb. God's not in the business of blowing up people. Exactly. That's not what it's about. Where did it come from then? You have to ask that question. Was it human evil, or was it diabolical evil that brought these things about. It was both. Okay, surprise. It was both. Both of these
Exactly.
things were working together. Yeah.
Diabolical evil had to have human conduits through which to work. Humans had to sell out to whatever these creatures of the night are, and they had to be their allies and sell out their own people, pretty much, for money and power. And that's really what's happened at the end of the day. Yeah.
No, I'll say that I believe there are other forms of alien life. Whether they're visiting us on a regular basis, that I don't know. But I believe without doubt there are other forms of alien life out there. I don't think God just stopped with us, making us. I believe
No.
there's plenty of others. Absolutely. And there's a lot of evidence for that too, by the way. But we've got to remember that the angelic is very especially established here on this planet with us for a reason. But we also must realize that they are in every aspect of our civilization. There's no part of it that includes AI, that includes the robotics, that includes the drones. All of this stuff, is fueled in a lot of ways by the diabolical element that is always present in this thing. And one day we will get rid of that diabolical element. That's when we will have true paradise on this planet.
I agree.
Until then, we're stuck with the diabolical, okay? And we've got to play that card. We've got to understand what we're dealing with and how they are affecting us our entire lives and how they want to infect us with our own technology. Here's the thing about the demonic, Chanti. It's not a creator. It doesn't go around creating stuff that much. It uses and manipulates and changes what it wants to do. Yeah. Against us. That's why it uses the best things that we try to do against us. AI, for one instance, without a doubt, has been infiltrated by the demonic because the one fatal flaw of AI is what? It is programmed by humans.
Yep.
Yeah.
I fully agree with that. I fully agree with that. And that's why I think, it's so important for us to maintain our balance as well. Things like going out into nature, going for walks, swimming, stuff like that. We have to maintain that connection to God and to nature because, nature is God in action. So when we understand nature serves our, it soothes our soul, it feeds our soul, it calms our soul, it brings us peace. And from that place of peace, we then obviously able to make much better decisions for ourselves in life when we are at a peaceful place, actually. But yeah, so I really think it's important that we do that.
Absolutely. I talk about that balance, and this is the number one way to protect yourself. Okay. When you have that balance just right, that balance between mind, body, and spirit, when you balance all three of those things out, you are the person that you're supposed to be. And you have what I would call a healthy spiritual life going on here. Okay. That's what makes a bumper and puts that shield up between you and this darkness. Sure, go, keep going and doing good deeds. Keep smiling and be happy and nice to people. There's nothing wrong with that. You're doing what you're supposed to do. That increases your spirituality. Okay. Sure, the good deeds, the thinking of the good thoughts, the good stuff that you do, all of this is outweighing that darkness that seeks to overtake you and unbalance you. You don't want to become unbalanced. You want to maintain that balance at all times. But you got to work on those three main gates: spiritually, physically, and mentally. Those are the three things you got to watch, and you got to keep them balanced. And when you do
I'm going to
that,
say four emotionally is very important too. I'm going to add 4 to that.
What is that?
Emotionally. Keep yourself
Yeah, well,
happy.
emotions are very part
Yeah,
of it. Well, here's the thing about emotions, and I do mention them a lot too. You got to be in control of them. That's the
yeah,
that's the physical part. If you can control that, that's mental too. Okay, it falls under the mental thing. But you got to keep your emotions in check for one reason: that your emotions can overwhelm you mentally. Okay, you don't want that to happen, and your
yeah,
emotions can be manipulated much better than anything else. By the way, things out there that look at music. Yeah, have you ever heard a great piece of music and it makes you want to cry or affects you emotionally? Or if you're watching a scary movie, all of a sudden the scary music comes on. It's setting you up to get scared. Okay, you're
yeah,
being manipulated. That's the way you do. And we have to be very careful with our emotions because they are very easily manipulated, not just by things in this world, but by our own standards. And
yeah, exactly.
you hear a lot of people say, I think this and I think that because they're approaching it emotionally.
Yeah,
So you can't let your emotions rule you. Your mind has to overrule that.
yeah, exactly.
Mm-hmm.
And you got to keep them in a place where they're constant and focused on that which makes you feel good. Got to. That's the trick with emotions. Emotions are like the fuel of your being. And if you're constantly in a negative pain state, you're going to get sucked into the abyss. But if you
You,
focus on that which makes you feel better, that
Mhm.
which brings you joy in life, that which uplifts your spirit day by day, bit by bit, that's what's going to drive you out of the darkness.
Exactly
Because
right. But
remember,
we have to guard
yeah,
against the outside influences too. We have to cut back on that. We have to watch that.
for sure
Don't
we
take
have to.
the
Yeah,
bad stuff. Yeah, yeah.
yeah. Yay, Dennis, thank you so much. I've really, really, really enjoyed having you on again this evening or this morning for you. It's evening for me. And the next time I see it'll probably be next year already, right?
Yeah.
Wow,
Yes. It
wow,
about be next
wow.
year. Yeah.
Good heavens. Okay, guys. And I want to say thank you so much for all you beautiful people that have joined us and connected with us in the chat. And hello, Roger. We're just saying goodbye, but thank you for joining us anyway. Okay, everybody. God bless you all and have an amazing. I know me that lives in my little holiday village here. I got to tell you, this place is cooking, man. It is cooking here at the moment. All these rich Joe Burgers, as we call them, with their huge big SUVs taking over our little roads here. We as locals don't like it, but they keep us going. So it's good to have all the holiday makers here. The weather is good. I know you guys are probably snowed up and what have you, but I wish you all a beautiful Christmas. But I'm going to see you anyway. Tomorrow is Friday night. I'll see you with Leo Zagami, and then I'll see you with Jesse on Sunday again. Um, Dennis, before you go, maybe you just want to tie up with something and then just tell everyone where they can reach you. I know there's your little banner flying across the bottom of the screen, but maybe you can just let us know as well.
Okay. Yes, ma'am. I will probably be on Paranormal Point of View tomorrow night at 9 o'clock p.m. Eastern Standard Time. I do reviews on books and movies and stuff like that, and we'll talk about general current things going on. Then Monday, I will be doing the road less traveled with my friend Gerald. We'll be doing our Christmas show Monday, and then I'll be back again Wednesday for Hunting the Shadows. You can reach me at DennisWCarroll.com and DennisWCarroll@gmail.com.
Perfect. So all your details are on the bottom of the screen. And if you happen to miss them on the bottom of the screen, check the description area of the show and the details are there as well. Dennis does a lot of great work counseling people that have affected by these paranormal creatures. But, you know, bottom line is we have to find ways to take care of that ourselves as well if we haven't already found those ways. Okay, everybody, God bless you all. Thank you, thank you, thank you. Take good care of yourselves, and I'll see you tomorrow.